Welcome to this week's moonLight of Emuna, Parshas Acharei Mos-Kedoshim. This week's learning should be a zchus for a full shlema from us in Feitel ben Yehudis, Yudah Menachem ben Rechama per Malkalea, Shmuel Shazan ben Chebechava, Menachem Mordechai ben Ophira, Shlam Eschama bas Shifra, Yisrael Yaakov ben Rivka Ita, and Leila Nishmas, Chana Mash bas Menachem Mendel, Ratz bas Menachem Mendel, and Henya bas Yechiel Mechel. So we have very interesting this week's parsha. We lay in a double parsha, Acharei Mos and Kedoshim, and we like to try to find the connection. There's a lot of topics in these two parshas, but I saw two interesting ideas that I think we can share, and we can maybe understand the flow. You know, I mentioned in my share Monday night that Acharei Mos, first of all, I want to wish a mazel tov to my daughter Chaviva on her engagement to Dovi Greenberg of Kew Gardens. Mazel tov, and the Torah that we learned should be a zchus. They should be able to build not by his name, Yisrael. So Acharei Mos is really the last parsha that deals with the karbanos, or primarily deals with the karbanos, which is Chumash Vayikra starts off with, and we have all the karbanos they avoid in the Beis Hamikdash, and Acharei Mos goes to the avoid of Yom Kippur, and then in Parshas Kedoshim we sort of transfer into Kedoshim to you should be holy, and a lot of the parsha deals with Ben Adam L'Chaver, things, interpersonal relationships. So I saw an idea from the Lubavitcher Rabbi. He says, you know, in the beginning of Parshas Acharei Mos is the Avodah of Yom Kippur. The Avodah of Yom Kippur is the holiest person in Klal Yisrael, the Kohen Gadol, on the holiest day of the year, doing the service in the Beis Hamikdash, the holiest place in the world. This is it's like the epitome of Kedusha. If we were to ask people, like, what's the biggest example of Kedusha, we would say the Kohen Gadol, Yom Kippur, right? In the Beis Hamikdash, that's the pinnacle of holiness. That's the holiness. Yet the parsha starts off with Acharei Mos, after death, right? That means after death, Acharei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron, after the death of the two sons of Aaron, right? And it almost seems like a strange segue that you're introducing this pinnacle of the Jewish experience of the Kohen Gadol in the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur with Acharei Mos, right? So we know that there are many reasons that are given for the death of Nadav and Avihu. What Nadav and Avihu did, what was their avera, what was the reason for it? But according to some, the Archaim and many of the Chassidish Sfarim, the reason they died was because they had such an intense love for Hashem. However, you explained that, but they had such an intense love for Hashem that their bodies couldn't hold their souls anymore. Their neshamas couldn't be contained anymore in their bodies. Right, the opening pasuk of the parsha kind of tells us that by Dabashal Moshe, Acharei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron, after they died, bekarvasam lifnei Hashem, because they approached in front of Hashem. But karvasam also means they came close, because they came too close to Hashem. Right, they drew too close to Hashem, vayimusu, and therefore they died. Their bodies couldn't hold their neshamas anymore. Right, so it means to tell us though, and then the parsha goes into the Avodah of Yom Kippur, this pinnacle of Kedusha, right? Before we get to next week's parsha, which starts with Kedoshim Tiyu, you should be holy, and there's a lot of references of Kedusha in next week's parsha. So says Lubavitcher Rebbe that this implies that there's something to strive for even after reaching tremendous heights in Avodas Hashem. That even if a person reaches tremendous heights, like the heights, or not quite like the heights, but almost like the heights of Nadav and Avihu, or a person feels like he's done what he could do, that he can't be contained in this world anymore, there's still something more, right? Why? Because we start next week's the second parsha of this week, Parsha Kedoshim, starts off with Vayidabra Hashem al Moshe Lamer, Dabra el Kol Adas Bnei Yisrael, speak to the whole Jewish people, V'amarta Leim, and say, Kedoshim to you should be holy, Ki Kadosh Ani Hashem Elekechem, because I, Hashem, your God, am holy, which we spoke about on Monday night, in Monday night shir. But that indicates, right, Hashem referencing Kedoshim to you should be holy. Why? Ki Kadosh Ani Hashem Elekechem, because I, Hashem, your God, am holy. That means that to some degree, we have the ability to reach this tremendous level of holiness of Kedusha, and we spoke Monday night about every single Jew has this ability in his way to sort of mirror Hashem's Kedusha, which is infinite. Hashem's Kedusha is infinite. We have, because each of us is a chelik elokam mimal, each of us is a part of Hashem, Hashem is a part of each of us, we have the ability to sort of mirror Hashem's unlimited, boundless Kedusha, which sounds so strange. Like, how could we match Hashem's Kedusha? And the answer to that, well, there's many answers that are given, but the idea of that is that we have to know that we're not limited by things of this world. We're not limited in the in the normal course of events. A Jew's ability for kedusha is way beyond that. It's Acharei Mos. It goes the way we call the parsha is Acharei Mos-Kedoshim. If a person feels like he's reached a level of kedusha, that this is my max, he should know that this is my max, and if I go any further, like there's no more me left, right? It would be Acharei Mos. It would take my neshama out of my body. He should know that there's kedoshim, there's still more room for kedusha. Okay, Nadav and Avihu were a separate situation. Now, none of us, I think, we have to worry about getting to the level of Nadav and Avihu and how that's explained by the Orach Chaim and others. But the point that we have to know is that we have to keep pushing ourselves. Acharei Mos, even when you push yourself, you think this is the limit. This is my limit. This is the limit that my physical body could get to kedusha. Acharei Mos-Kedoshim, there's more kedusha that's available to a Jew. And I want to give an example that in Parshas Kedoshim, we have all kinds of mitzvahs of ben adam lechavere, right? We have tzedakah, and we have that you have to be honest with others. We have the most famous v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, that you have to treat other people like yourself, being honest in business, and in both parshas we have the rules about not having relationships with people we're not supposed to have. But there's one mitzvah in there that seems a little bit mundane. It's an interpersonal relationship. It's right before v'ahavta. It's in the same pasuk as v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, Perek Yud Tes, pasuk Yud Ches, and it seems sometimes we don't know really what to make of this. It says in the pasuk, lo yisikon v'lo yisitar. You should not take revenge and you should not bear a grudge as bnei amecha, against the people of your nation. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love people. You should love your friend like yourself. Ani Hashem. And it's an interesting pasuk that v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha we know is zeh klal gadol b'Torah. Rabbi Akiva taught us it's klal gadol b'Torah, and yet it comes after this thing. Revenge seems somewhat petty. So listen to how Rav Shimshon David Pincus explains this. He quotes from the Mesilas Yesharim. The Mesilas Yesharim on this mitzvah of not taking revenge says that he says this mitzvah, this avera of taking revenge, the mitzvah not to take revenge, is very difficult. It's a very difficult mitzvah. The Mesilas Yesharim says why? Because human nature is that we're sensitive to insults. And if somebody does something to us, right, it's very hard for us to let it go. He did something not right to me. You know how good I was to him over the years, and this is how he treats me, right? And it causes real pain, right? That's human nature. That's part of human nature. When we take revenge, this is the words of the Mesilas Yesharim, misuka midvash. It's sweeter than honey. Revenge is sweeter than honey. Right? Why? Because kihi menuchosoi levada. It somehow eases our hearts. Now the question is, what is this sweetness? This is what Rav Shimshon David Pincus asks. He goes, what's this sweetness? What's the cause of this sweetness? Why is revenge, right? There's a saying in English, sweet revenge, right? Revenge is sweet. A dish best served cold, right? There's something very sweet and charming about revenge. Why is that? So he explains. Rav Shimshon David Pincus explains this idea. What's so good about getting revenge? How does it undo it? A guy stole money from me, and now I make him look like a fool in revenge. Why is that so sweet? I still don't have the money. Or he insulted me, right? He insulted me on Monday, and on Tuesday I got him back. Why does that make me feel better? Why does that feel so good? So he says the idea, human nature is, because you are settling an account. You are fixing it to some degree, right? Why? Because on Monday, when my friend insulted me on Monday, he did damage to me, right? He embarrassed me, he humiliated me, right? When I get him back on Tuesday, retroactively, it takes away my insult. Why? Because it says that you see that it wasn't so good for him to insult me yesterday, right? He insulted me on Monday and I was humiliated. On Tuesday, when I insult him and humiliate him worse, it shows everybody, and especially myself, that you see yesterday when he insulted me, it wasn't a real insult, because it wasn't worth it for him. Look how much worse it was for him than it was for me, because I got him back, and I got him back twice as good today. I'm proving to the world and to myself that he couldn't really hurt me yesterday. He didn't have really the ability to hurt me yesterday. Right? As we say in English, like, he'll pay for that, right? In other words, the insult yesterday, he really did damage to himself, not really to me. So I get to undo the insult of yesterday, sort of, right? I get to fix it. I go back in time and I correct the insult, and it turns out that it wasn't so insulting, because look what he got for it. He got much worse than I did. Revenge is sweet because it goes back in time and it fixes the damage to my honor. Now, if we think of it that way, we understand why it's a very natural thing to want to take revenge on somebody. But then the question is, why does the Torah tell us not to? Why shouldn't I fix my honor? If I have the ability to restore my honor, why shouldn't I? So he says because it denies a basic fact of life of being a religious person, which means that if something happened to me, if my honor was besmirched yesterday, if my honor was hurt yesterday, that only was because Hashem decreed it so, right? That this person who insulted me could not have done it unless Hashem wanted me to have that insult, right? So while it's true, explains Rav Pincus, that going forward, of course, I'm supposed to take steps to protect myself, right? I don't just throw money away and say, well, if the guy's going to cheat me, he's going to cheat me. No, I have to do reasonable steps. There's nothing wrong with that. A person's supposed to protect himself, but when I'm looking at things that happened yesterday, what happened, and I can't uproot that. If there was some pain or tsar or something that was supposed to come to me, that was supposed to come to me. That was decreed from Shemaim, and it has very little to do, it has nothing to do with the person who did it. Like we've given the mashal many times, right? That somebody hits a dog with a stick, and the dog gets angry at the stick. It's not the stick, right? But he doesn't realize that. Same thing with us. The person who insulted me, and now I'm trying to undo it by insulting him or getting back at him. I'm going after the wrong part. I have to think about the insult that I got yesterday and say, what's Hashem trying to tell me? Or why did I have this with Hashem? Or how can I fix my relationship with Hashem? Or any of the other things. Or what do I have to do tshuva for? But by focusing on this person and trying to undo the insult, I'm ignoring the reality that it was from Hashem. I'm focused on the wrong person. And therefore the Torah tells us don't take revenge, because if you're taking revenge, it means you're not focusing on what's true. Who though do we say can take revenge? We call Hashem Kel Nekames Hashem. Hashem is called the God of revenge. Why is Hashem called revenge? If revenge is such a bad thing, why does Hashem take revenge? Because when Hashem what does Hashem take revenge for? When somebody does something against Hashem's will and he doesn't do tshuva, right? Of course, Hashem gives us the ability to do tshuva. But when a person does something bad, Hashem has to take revenge because it's going against Hashem's will also, and therefore that needs to be rectified. In other words, I can't go back yesterday to undo something that was done to my honor, because that infliction against my honor was meant to happen. But Hashem has to go back and correct what the damage that was done to his honor. And therefore there can't be a moment in time that went against Hashem's honor. And if there was, then Hashem goes back and corrects it. So revenge is something that is exclusively in the realm of Hashem's world, where Hashem if something was done against Hashem's will, Hashem corrects that. If something was done against my will, then it was meant to be done against my will, because that was Hashem's will. So I can't go back and correct it. That's the difference. So revenge is something that's exclusively from Hashem's perspective. We don't have the right to take revenge because we're trying to undo something that was meant to be done to us. Now, obviously, it goes without saying there are areas of halacha. If somebody stole money from me, I'm allowed to take him to beis din. There are things that I'm allowed to do within the framework of halacha. But we're talking about just revenge for the sake of like restoring my honor, just to that feeling of like proving that this guy was wrong for coming after me. That the Torah says that's not for us. Our job is when somebody does something to us. Of course, if we have the rights to restore money that he took from us, or to do things to protect ourselves in the future. But that feeling of insult, that feeling of my honor was damaged, that we're supposed to look inside and look to our relationship with Hashem and focus on that and recognize that this was something from Hashem, a message or a kapara, something that's between us and Hashem. And that's why maybe this which at first glance seems like such a small thing, like not to take revenge, is in the parsha of Kedoshim Tiyu, or really all of these things in Kedoshim Tiyu, right? The parsha starts off Kedoshim, you should be so holy. We start off Acharei Mos, Yom Kippur, Kedoshim, and then we have these like technical things about Ben Adam Lechavera and Loisika and Loisitar. This not taking revenge leads into the pasuk of V'ahavta L'reach Kamocha. The answer is yes, because if you want to truly love somebody else like yourself, you want to really be able to reach a high level of kedusha, an Acharei Mos type of kedusha. You want to really be able to love your fellow like yourself. You want to really become holy to Hashem, which is founded on your tremendous relationship with Hashem and always working on your relationship with Hashem. You need to look at the things that happen in your life, whether you like them or whether you didn't like them, both the good and the bad, and say, this is here for me to experience something and bring me closer to Hashem. This is here designed to bring me closer to Hashem, to make me more kaddish than I thought possible, to make me love reacha kemoicha. The only way I can love somebody else as much as myself is if I see it as part of Hashem's plan, is if I see it that this is what Hashem wants of me. Otherwise, how could we possibly love somebody more than ourselves, or the same as ourselves? Right? A person is the most self-interested with himself. But if we realize that it's all part of Hashem. Each of us has a chelik alakam ma'al. It's really all the same. If this is what Hashem wants me to do, give money to the poor, it's like giving money to myself. It's like giving money to Hashem. Not taking revenge is appreciating the moment that Hashem sent me a message or sent me a kapara. He did it for what was good for me, and to forget about that guy. That guy is irrelevant. So he insulted me. So what? I don't have to prove to the world or to myself that he was wrong, that he'll pay for that. That's irrelevant. The relevance is why was I insulted? What do I need? What do I need to fix in my relationship to Hashem? What was Hashem giving me in that moment? And if we do that, we'll reach levels of kedusha that we never believed possible while we were alive. It'll be Acharei Mos-Kedoshim. That would be the highest level that we could possibly reach. Ones that we didn't think we were capable of, and that's why Acharei Mos goes into Yom Kippur and then goes into Kedoshim Tiyu. That's the way that a Jew has to live, with everything being, what does it have to do with my connection to Hashem? Forget about my connection with this guy. He insulted me, so he insulted me. He took money from me, good, I'll try to get it back in Bezdin. If not, Hashem wanted me to lose the money. We should all reach this level, which sounds unattainable. It sounds like I would only be able to reach that kind of level, Acharei Mos. But that's what the Torah is telling us with these two parshas, Acharei Mos-Kedoshim. You think that these are levels that are only for after Misa? These are things that are attainable because we mirror Hashem, because we remember that we have a piece of Hashem inside of us, and that it's our job to connect to that piece of Hashem inside of us, that Kedusha, and we can mirror Hashem's Kedusha on our level to the extent, and by pushing ourselves a little bit more each day. Acharei Mos-Kedoshim, we should all be Mekayim that, and I wish you all a beautiful, wonderful Shabbos.